Um dos homens mais poderosos do mundo veio a público e disse que tudo será tokenizado. E esse homem é Larry Fink, CEO da BlackRock, a maior gestora de investimentos do mundo, com mais de 10 trilhões em ativos gerenciados.
This is one of the reasons why I'm focusing on the whole idea of blockchain for securities. I look forward to the day when we could tokenize stocks and bonds, that every stock and every bond we could identify immediately who is the beneficial owner, and this is why we're working on it, and every beneficial owner from an individual to an institution have the ability to vote, to democratize every single vote. And that's where we want to take this, and we're leading that effort.
E nesse outro vídeo ele fala de suas perspectivas para 2023.
Talk about 2022 being a year of huge transition. How do you see this year shaping up, Larry? More of the same, or, are your expectations perhaps a bit different than what we've seen last year?
Well, from the perspective of long-term investors, I see 2023 to be enormously opportunistic. Actually, maybe the hardest years for investing for the long term were the last few years because of negative interest rates. Investors worldwide had to take on more and more risk to achieve their liabilities. Actually, now having 2-year Treasury is going to be close, at 4.25, credits at 5%, high yield at 8%. We're going to see a whole restructuring and a rebalancing of how portfolios were constructed just a few years ago, and you're going to see now once again more bond investing within the confines of pension fund investing. In 20 years ago, most pension funds had 60-70% in bonds because they were able to achieve their role and their goals that they were trying to achieve. By 2018, they could not own bonds. They had to put on more and more illiquidity. And so in reality, we're going to be seeing more and more opportunities of rebalancing back into bonds. And as you talk about a lot about growth equity, when interest rates are near zero, you have the ability to buy high growth stocks because you're not losing any money. If short rates go up to 5%, you're paying a big premium for that type of perceived growth. And that's a recalibration that we saw in 2022. And now we're living in an area where you're going to be able to invest differently. In addition, We are seeing more and more investors looking at infrastructure where you're going to have a combination of some illiquidity, but you're going to have high coupon. I think this is going to be a period of time with more dividend stocks again as a play. So I look at this as more opportunistic. And probably the most important thing of our announcement today in terms of earnings has been BlackRock is winning more share of wallet than any firm in the world. In good markets when markets are going down, or in bad markets, good markets when markets are going up and bad markets are going down. This past year, we had $400 billion of net inflows in long-term assets, of which $230 billion came from the United States. And so we have now raised about $1.7 trillion over the last few years. From investors awarding us in good times and bad times because of the guidance we're giving and also our performance and our fiduciary standard.
Uma das maiores faculdades dos Estados Unidos começou a ensinar os alunos sobre Bitcoin. O professor disse que um curso de programação Bitcoin seguirá o primeiro, onde os alunos aprenderão como construir uma biblioteca Bitcoin do zero. A adoção em sala de aula de cursos de Bitcoin e criptomoeda continua a disparar, com o Texas A&M sendo agora a mais recente faculdade dos Estados Unidos a oferecer um curso de Bitcoin para alguns de seus mais de 74 mil alunos. Já num viés mais pessimista, o governador do Banco da Reserva da Índia pede proibição total das criptomoedas.
Cryptocurrencies have the potential, they have the characteristics of becoming a means of exchange. That is, they can become a means of exchange of doing a transaction. And most of it is dollar denominated. So if you allow it to grow, assume a situation where 20% of our transactions in the economy, 20% I'm mentioning an ad hoc number, 20% of the transactions in the economy is taking place through cryptos which are not issued by the central bank. It is issued by private companies which are placed all over the world. The Reserve Bank, being the monetary authority of the country as the central bank, will lose control over the money supply in the economy, we will lose control over 20% of the transactions in our economy. Reserve Bank's ability, the central bank's ability to decide monetary policy, to decide on the liquidity of, the level of liquidity that needs to be maintained, the level of money supply M3 that has to be maintained in the economy, the Reserve Bank's authority to that extent will get undermined. It will lead to a dollarization of the economy. And please believe me, these are not empty alarm signals or empty, this can happen. 1 year ago in the Reserve Bank, we had said that this whole thing is likely to collapse sooner than later.
Irã e Rússia querem emitir nova stablecoin lastreada em ouro. A potencial stablecoin visa permitir transações transfronteiriças em vez de moedas fiduciárias como o dólar americano, o rublo russo e o real iraniano. Irã e Rússia estão entre os países que proibiram seus residentes de usar criptomoedas como Bitcoin e stablecoins como o Tether para pagamentos. Ao mesmo tempo, o Irã e a Rússia têm trabalhado ativamente para adotar a criptomoeda como ferramenta de comércio exterior. Wall Street Silver. Mais de 100 países estão desenvolvendo sua própria moeda digital do Banco Central, CBDC. Imagine o que eles podem fazer com esse nível de controle.
Over 100 countries are in some stage of developing a central bank digital currency, otherwise known as a CBDC. They're coming to your country soon, and here's why that's a big deal. A CBDC is digital cash like crypto, but it's controlled and programmed centrally by your government. But what's wrong with money right now? The system's outdated. The requirements to just open a bank account leave tons of people without one. And once you do, you have to pay the bank for storing your money. If you want to move that money, it takes 2 to 3 days because they have to verify the money in your account. With a CBDC, money is all controlled under one institution, so it's like currency in a video game. So transfers, taxes, and stimulus checks would all be programmable. That sounds nice. Yeah, but because the government would now have the power to track, delete, and create money instantly, people are worried. Eventually, the government could implement monetary policy that's good for the economy but terrible for you. For example, they could stimulate the economy by putting expiration dates on the money in our accounts, so we have to go out and spend it on things before a certain date. If you do something the government doesn't like protesting, they could automatically fine you, freeze your account, or shut you out of the system completely. Also, large corporations could pressure the government to censor use of the currency on certain products while heavily promoting theirs. But what do you think?
E por hoje é isso, pessoal. Deixa o like, se inscreve, comenta, compartilha e a gente se vê no próximo. Valeu!
だがなおとはたとえどんなことがあっても自分が軌道刑事基盤であると名乗ることはできないのだ。